It feels like a rebirth, a reboot of the Republic. Because it seems to me that our founders built a pretty darn good system, given with what they had to work with, etc. But it sort of evolved into things happening behind closed doors. And the lobbyists and the power brokers are the only people who had any power after a while. Doesn't it feel like that? And it feels now that under the age of Trump, and who knows if this will last or not, it feels like the public is completely empowered now. Completely. Who saw that coming? Not me. I didn't see that coming. It seems to me that an average citizen can today have as much power as an average citizen could have in the beginning of the Republic, when things were so small that you probably knew, you knew the other people in government. You would know your governor. You might know him personally. Because the world was so small, there just weren't many people there during the formation of the Republic. But it feels like Trump and Jack Dorsey and Zuckerberg, in a sense, the social media platforms, in conjunction with this weird, unusual president, has created a situation that has empowered individuals in a way I've never seen it. One of the things I love about the Trump administration is that it seems to be a two-way communication street, that's two-way communication that's always open between the presidency and the citizens in a way we've never seen before. I was watching, for example, I was watching the miniseries about Roger Ailes, and in that, and who knows how accurate this is, but in that you saw that who was it? One of the guys working for President Bush called Roger Ailes and asked him for his help, essentially managing the news to be consistent with what the White House wanted. And I thought, I'll bet before the Trump administration, the best way you could describe the relationship between the government and the people is that the government would make decisions with their experts and with their advisors and with their lobbyists and everything else. So the government would make decisions, and then they would try to sell it to the people. I feel like that was the model up until Trump. Trump has a superior model of dealing with the public. Now, it may be someday in the future when historians look at it and go, hey, we didn't know it at the time, but that's a superior model. Let me give you an example. The president is often mocked for having his TV on during the day quite a bit, watching Fox News, but also we know he watches CNN. At least he's probably watched a little MSNBC. So we know the president is sampling the news from the both sides. Whereas we imagine that a Bill Clinton or a President Obama were reading the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and Tony upscale magazines and things that would be a higher intellectual plane than mere television. Which of those two models gives you a better idea where the country is at? Which of those two models rapidly A/B tests messages so you can see what's working in real time, see how people react to it? TV is the pulse of the country. This president is doing the smart thing. He's watching the pulse. He can see in real time somebody tries a message, whether it's on Fox or CNN, and he can tell how it comes across. He can tell how he feels about it. He can ask the people in the room, usually people in the room if you're president. He can ask them what they think about it. How'd that go over? Did that work? Maybe I'll try that. So the president has created this interactive, real-time relationship with the press. But it's better than that, because the press often reacts to social media and vice versa, right? There's a symbiotic relationship, social media, news, government. And this president has made those three things almost one unit of a machine, whereas it used to be sort of a top-down, hey, we're going to try to make you guys do what we want. Do you not see examples where there are individuals on social media who come up with a good message, a good approach, a good meme? For example, Carpe Dunctum creates great memes, and next thing you know, the president's tweeting it. So what we're seeing is something we've never seen before, which is that an individual voter, just a citizen, can have a good idea, put it on social media, or it could be just a good message or a good way of expressing something, puts it on social media, gets a bunch of likes, gets a bunch of retweets, it bubbles up, somebody with a blue check notices it, they retweet it, maybe another blue check, and then suddenly the office of the president notices that there's a good message that's getting a lot of traction, and then he uses it. It's amazing. The entire system of government has been completely rewritten by this president, and it's one of those things you're going to see in hindsight much clearer, because when you're in it, you don't really have the same vision to be able to see it while you're in it. But I've never seen a more interactive approach. Let me give you an example. Here's a concrete example. I mentioned the other day that there's something called the Office of Nuclear Energy, which you can follow at @GovNuclear. So our government has a department that's promoting nuclear energy and has lots of information about the newest stuff and the newest test facilities and what's coming online now, et cetera. So apparently it's a newish Twitter account, and I called attention to it because my attention was drawn to it through Mark Schneider, our resident nuclear advocate expert. And so he called my attention to it, and then I tweeted it. Their number of followers was just a couple thousand. I forget the exact number, but 2,000 or 3,000, something like that, followers in total. That was the total attention they were getting. Today they have 5,000. So 2,000 people who are citizens who are interested in nuclear and can be sort of weaponized as advocates because they're people who had enough interest to follow this account. And I'm mentioning it again, which will again boost their attention. So you can see a concrete example where I tweeted them and their exposure roughly doubled. I mean, it was a small number, but it doubled. So you can see the effect that the public is boosting parts of the government that are productive, and then that government does something for the people. So it's this continual two-way virtuous cycle that I just don't know existed before. It feels like it's really taken on a life of its own. Here's another example. So earlier I was just talking about how there's a bipartisan bill to lower pharmaceutical costs. Well, don't you think that knowing that, because I just told a bunch of you, don't you think that knowing that increases the chance that maybe it could happen? Right. So there are lots of things that we, the citizens on social media, and especially the blue check people who have a lot of followers, we can boost the signal of anything worth boosting. You know, we can do it with a campaign ad. I can do it with the @Gov Nuclear site. I can do it with a bill. I can do it with China. I can do it with fentanyl. So you can see that individuals are now sort of testing messages. We know that the White House is watching. They are watching at least the blue checks, and you see the president's actually retweeted people who are not even highly visible, just people who had a good idea. That is just hugely inspirational to me, because it feels like I don't want to take this too far into optimism, because you won't be able to follow me there. But it feels like almost a rebirth of the republic. Too much? Is that too much? It feels like a rebirth, a reboot of the republic, because it seems to me that our founders built a pretty darn good system, given with what they had to work with, etc. But it sort of evolved into things happening behind closed doors, and the lobbyists and the power brokers are the only people who had any power after a while. Doesn't it feel like that? And it feels now that under the age of Trump, and who knows if this will last or not, it feels like the public is completely empowered now. Completely. Who saw that coming? Not me. I didn't see that coming. It seems to me that an average citizen can today have as much power as an average citizen could have in the beginning of the Republic, when things were so small that you probably knew, you knew the other people in government. You would know your governor. You might know him personally. Because the world was so small, there just weren't many people there during the formation of the Republic. But it feels like Trump and Jack Dorsey and Zuckerberg, in a sense, the social media platforms, in conjunction with this weird, unusual president, has created a situation that has empowered individuals in a way I've never seen it. Let me give you an example. If an individual came up with a terrific idea for gun control, let's say, would that individual be able to get that terrific idea to bubble up all the way to the White House? Absolutely. I never would have said that any other time, would you? Just fact check me on this. Based on your observation, this is more opinion than fact, but based on what you've watched about the process, based on the number of times you've seen an individual tweet bubble all the way up to the White House, would a great idea from just a person make it all the way to the White House? Absolutely. Absolutely. That doesn't mean they'll use it, because, they get a lot of ideas and they know more than we do about, the variables that are involved. But absolutely, a good idea from an individual will go right into the president's hands. That's amazing. That's amazing. And it can happen in 24 hours. It's a whole new world. So I could not be more optimistic about the Republic, because I think the Republic went stale, and instead of having to get refreshed with the blood of patriots, because that the founders assumed that every now and then you gotta, what's the saying, you gotta refresh the tree of freedom with the blood of patriots or something. As luck would have it, we've taken that warfare to the internet. So there's blood of patriots, but it's in the form of people getting ratioed and losing their jobs because of social media. So that stuff's still pretty bloody in a figurative sense. But it looks like patriots are weighing in, and they're putting tons of energy. People are putting their necks on the line. I am. You've watched me put my neck on the line repeatedly. I take risks that you shouldn't take because I can afford it, right? I made enough money that if I lost my job tomorrow, I'd be fine. So you get to watch me take some risks that I'm happy to take on your behalf because I can afford it and you can't. So I'm happy to do that as a patriot. And your support to me makes that meaningful, right? The fact that you support me in this collectively is what makes it doable. So your individual sort of, I would say love and support that you give to me, that neither of those words are too much, I think, allows me to boost my voice and boost other people, like the ones I mentioned. So it's a good system, as long as we have this president. I hope the next president is as flexible, because I'd hate to lose this. It's pretty important.